This is Matt Russell, and welcome to the DailyFX Forum.
So here are the four pairs that I will be discussing this evening: the Euro Pound, the Aussie Kiwi, the Pound Swiss, and the Euro Swiss, as well as the Euro Aussie. So let's go ahead and pull up the charts. The first chart is the Euro Pound. If you recall, during yesterday's report, I mentioned a potential trade setup at the longer term support line. Entry 89.35 on the long side with a stop near that 89 figure. During yesterday's session, prices came down to a low of 89.26, and also early in this session came down to a low of 89.28. So hopefully you were able to enter this trade around the 89.35 area. What I would say now is I might tighten the risk a little bit as we've had another day for this line to mature, if you will. It's an upward sloping line, so of course that means that the prices are moving upwards with the line. So I might move that stop up to about 89.15, so that's a total risk of about 20 pips if you entered at 89.35. If you're flat right now or you have no position, I might enter here maybe with a 30 pip stop, but obviously you're taking a little bit more risk, 10 pips to be precise. The next chart is the Aussie Kiwi, and not much has changed here. I was looking at this chart very briefly before. 25.08 is the low on this candle, and we can see right now prices are about 25.10. Let me get the low here, 25.03. So actually since I looked at the chart about 5 minutes ago and now look again, prices have taken out that 25.08 low. I was going to say that there might be a short-term double bottom where we might risk about 10-20 pips in terms of a stop, but we could see prices already violated that analysis. So again, I would just stay on the sidelines on this pair and enter that Euro Pound trade. The next chart is the Pound Swiss, and not much has changed here. Again, this kind of acts as the inverse of the Euro Pound given the relative stability of the Euro Swiss over the past few months. So again, I would just stay on the sidelines with this pair as well. The next chart is the Euro Swiss, and this trade continues. Entry 51.25 with a stop around that 51.50 area. If you're in this trade, I'm becoming less and less confident with this trade idea. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, the fact that prices were able to get above 51.30 violates the integrity of that resistance line, and right now again price is about 51.30. so if you're in this trade, I would continue to stay in it. It's worth the risk. You don't want to pay the spread again, but again, I would keep the risk tight, stop at 51.50 and expect to lose on this trade. The next chart is the Euro Aussie, and as I was mentioning during yesterday's report, I expected double bottom to form. I also mentioned that we might look for an entry at 159.80 with a stop at 159.30, and during yesterday's, after the report, during this candle here, prices actually came down to 159.77, but since I mentioned the trade idea, prices never returned back down to 59.80. I think the lowest they got since I spoke was just above that 160 figure. I think 160.001. So again, if you possibly miss this trade, and that's part of trading, and if you were waiting at 59.80 and you missed the entry by about 20 pips, and now you've seen prices rise 120 pips, it's perfectly fine. It's part of trading, and it's an emotion that you have to deal with, and I hope this thing just skyrockets right now, to be perfectly honest with you. And again, it's an emotion that you have to deal with, and once you deal with that, then you can move forward and look at every trading opportunity with pure objectivity. Again, my name is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for a preview of the DailyFX forums. I want to take this opportunity to formally welcome you all to the DailyFX forums. I want to go through the process of how I personally access the forums and how maybe you at home, if you want to access the forums in the future, might do so. The first thing you would do is go to www.dailyfx.com, and that will bring up, obviously, dailyfx.com, and usually there on the upper right hand corner I'll go ahead and click on where it says forum, and that will bring up the first page of the forums. And this view, I personally don't use this view, but this view actually shows you the most recent posts on all the threads within the different sections, and a little detail about those posts, so you can read through and see if there's something catches your interest. But personally, I go ahead and just click on forums and view them in the more traditional sense. Now, these are different threads within the forum. There's a section on education, such as DailyFX course instructor tips, which would be good for newer traders, and then for more advanced traders. And I just want to go ahead, personally, the way I use the forums is I would go through the individual threads, just looking for trade ideas, maybe looking at charts, looking at certain lines that maybe I didn't put up on my chart, but another trader might have put up on their chart. I I tend to, shy away from using direct trade recommendations from other forum members, but it helps me to sort of even out my analysis, make sure that I'm seeing things with the right mind in terms of I might be missing stuff that other traders can see, and that's my personal way of using the forum. Every trader is going to be a little bit different in how they use it. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to become an active participant of the members, you would have to go ahead and register. So that's what I'm going to go through now, is the registration process. So assuming you're brand new to the forums, or maybe you've been here a few times and you're not really sure how it works, so I just want to walk through again the registration process. This would be the front page where you would access, or the previous page. You'd have the same little box here on the left hand side. Obviously, my username and password are already filled out here, but assuming you're a new member, you would click on where it says register, and that will bring up the registration page. If you give me one moment here while my browser loads. And actually first we're going to have some terms of service and DailyFX forum rules. I do suggest reading through the forum rules. Obviously, profanity and spam and things like that are not allowed, but it also gives you insight on how to use the forum and how different traders can use it, in terms of their individual needs. So you would go down to the bottom there. You'd click on where it says I have read all the rules, and then you would go ahead to the register, the formal registration page, and that will bring up here. And you can go ahead and select the username, and how about we'll use 4x, and that name is already in use, so maybe add a few more x's there. Again, it really, your individual username is up to you, and you go ahead and fill in your password, your email address. Now, the most difficult aspect of registration for the DailyFX forums will be figuring out these letters in the box here. Now, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I have a very difficult time figuring out which letters and numbers to use. Now there is a reason for this madness. It helps with security, but I would suggest just going ahead and keep on clicking that refresh image until something comes through that you can actually identify and see. Then you can go ahead and enter your birthday, but you can decide whether or not to display that to other forum members. And then also, if you were referred by somebody, you can enter that information there. The time zone, that should default to your computer, but you should double check and make sure. And then you can opt in, and I would suggest opting in for these emails in terms if the administrators want to go ahead and send you some notices about the forum, and then you would complete registration. Now what happens is they would send you an email to the email address that you put up here, and that email will include a link, and all you would have to do is go ahead and click on that link, and that link will bring you inside the forum, and you would now be a member of the DailyFX forums. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening.